Hello, welcome. Third time is a charm. I'm not even kidding, you guys. I'm not even going to tell you all the ways that it got messed up, but it just did. So we're just going to move right along and welcome everyone to the yarn coil basket tutorial. You guys were all about this tutorial. So many comments. I just want to thank you for digging my style and my randomness when it comes to my making. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm mainly a knitter, but do all sorts of things in my typical format, which is normally my face, and it's just me talking about my makes while usually drinking an adult beverage. I don't typically do tutorials, which is probably why this is the third time that I've had to record this, which is super irritating, but hopefully third time's a charm. I asked the masses if y'all were interested in a coil basket making tutorial, and the answer was unanimous. On my latest podcast, I talked about a coil basket that I'm making, this one to be exact. For me, this skill dates back to my high school art class, and we can all thank Mrs. Westoven, who has since remarried, and that's not her name anymore, but I don't know what it is, so I'm sorry. She'll always be Mrs. Westoven to me, for teaching me so that I can teach you guys. I'm sure there are a ton of tutorials by others on coil basket making. I'm not sure if there is a right way or a wrong way, but I have a way that I do it and that I was taught. That being said, I learned this clear back in 1990, probably 5. So I have slept a whole bunch since then, and I might do it a little differently than Mrs. Westoven even showed me then. So basically, bottom line, I am going to show you the way I have made them thus far, and we will see how y'all like it. Before we get started, if you've been watching me for a while, you know I love to learn, and in preparation for this tutorial, found myself wanting to know more about the history of coil basket making. So please stick around, and not only will you learn hopefully a new craft, but maybe a little history along the way. I thought that I would start by showing a few baskets that I have made. First, I'm going to insert a picture, hopefully here somewhere, of a large basket that actually lives in my hall linen closet, and I keep like medicine and stuff in it. I have had that basket for a very long time. That is used with fabric, and I'll be showing you how to do that as well. Back in art class, we used yarn, very similar to this. I showed this picture of the basket that I made in high school. It currently lives at my mom's house on our hutch. This one holds crystals and sits in my bay window and is a perfect example of either what not to do or how you can kind of go outside the box. I will be showing you why this happens later. Even though she ratchet, I really do like her. She's been around a long time. As you can see, this used to be white. She's dirty and she's kind of seen better days, but she enjoys where she lives, I think. So now the supplies. First, I'll talk about the easiest and probably the most well-known to at least us knitters and crocheters is the tapestry needle. A tapestry needle is big, usually blunt tipped, and has a very large eye, and that enables you to get large yarn through it. So get yourself a tapestry needle. They're super easy to find if you don't have one. Then you'll need some sort of core for the basket. Mrs. Westoven in art class had us use jute, and it's this kind of jute. It's looking like this is 1/4 of an inch. I'm not sure if that's how they do it on the label or not. Here is another form of jute. I got this at a hardware store, Do It Best, and they call this 3-ply. So, of course, much like knitting, the size of your core is going to determine the size of your coils. So here is an example of your coil size if you're using this guy. Same here. These look a little thicker. This is a good example right here. This coil, the core is this, but I was using 3 strands of yarn, whereas this one I only used 1. This also is just 1 strand of yarn on this same size coil. If you use a thicker core, obviously you are going to use or have a thicker coil. Other things that you can use for coils, I have some macrame rope here. I personally would not choose this if I was going out to buy something, just because I would rather do the jute. It's going to be more price effective to use the jute over actual macrame cord. I think this is going to be a little more expensive. But if you have a craft room, much like I do, where you just have stuff in it, which is where this cord came from, I have no idea why I had it, you can use this. Another thing that you can use if you are into recycling, plastic bags. Here, I actually started this on one of the previous videos that I did to show you how to start a basket. We'll have to figure something else out for this video, but this is another option. You can use sheets, any sort of fabric in strips, like a bulky fabric if you have leftover. You can use clothesline. You show me what you have on hand. I am going to come up with a hashtag and put it someplace here. And I would absolutely love to see what you guys come up with. I want you to use your art brains and show me what other types of things that you can use for coils. Also, you have wraps. I can use fabric. I can use yarn. That's pretty much the only thing that I personally have used. I just can't wait to see what you guys do with this. So let's get started. If you guys notice the camera shift, it's because I'm super paranoid now of whether the camera's recording or whether I am still in frame and you can see me, because as I mentioned before, this is the 3rd time I've been doing this. I know that I told you that I wouldn't typically use macrame cord as a core, but I'm going to do it this time because I've started all my other things in previous videos and I need to teach you how to start it. So we are going to use this. It'll actually work very well. The only reason I wouldn't pick to do it is because of the price of it. I'll just be using this as an example. So I'm not actually going to make a basket. I'm using some hand spun. Okay. So you want to go ahead and thread your yarn. Well, let me show you something else. I'm ambidextrous. And I never know when I start a craft whether I'm right-handed or left-handed. And a lot of things I'm both. So I don't know if I'm going to be showing you right-handed or left-handed. The way I've been doing it here lately is I wrap with my right. I work the needle with my right and I hold the basket with my left. That coils counterclockwise. This one, though, you can see how I ended it here. We'll talk about ending again in a little bit. You can see on this one, I went clockwise. Feel what's best for you and go that way. I'm going to teach you wrapping with the right and holding the basket with the left. So my needle will be in my right hand, which makes me think that's right-handed, but Okay, so first what you do is you get the other end of your yarn and you get your core here, about yay back-ish. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap your core about yay long and then fold it back on itself like so, and then start wrapping this way. And then it's going to coil around, which you can kind of see there. So we straight wrapped it, folded it back on itself, and then started the coil. So for the first few rounds, you're going to be working into the middle of the basket until you work around enough to start getting into the next coil, which that'll make more sense once you start doing it. So the way you start it is you just hold this anywhere and wrap it around. Now, when you're wrapping, you want, you don't need to pull so hard that you hurt yourself. You want it tight, but you also don't want to be uncomfortable while you're doing it. I mean, you could pull it so tight you look like you have eagle claws when you're done. Don't do that. You want it taut, or else you'll have a loosey-goosey basket. You just want it tight enough that it is structurally sound, if that makes sense. Now, how far you wrap this also matters. You want to go far enough that when you fold it back on itself, like so, that's probably perfect. Because then we're going to, this is the wrong way, but it's going to be similar to that, okay? If you wrap it too long, I'll show you an example. You're going to have a hole. You don't want a hole. Well, I don't know, maybe you do. Here again, this is all art, guys. It's whatever you want to do for your basket. Maybe you want a hole in your basket for some reason. I don't know. Maybe you want to make a lampshade. That'd be pretty badass, yeah? You could make a bigger hole and have like a little hangy down light. I don't know what you want to do, but just be mindful that's what will happen if you wrap it long versus short. So I'm going to do a regular basket, so I don't want a big hole there. When you get ready to form your coil, or the middle of your coil, the start of your coil, you don't want it hanging down. You want it coming up out of the top, and I'll show you why. So bring it up out of the top. Fold it over onto itself and pinch it pretty hard, okay? Then you'll want to wrap around away from you, which, here's a good example. See, you can see the coil right there. I need to go a little further. Also, you can see the coil right there. You don't want that. What that means is that I did not push this coil down close enough. So you want that real tight so that when it bends, or snug up against each other, I should say, so that when it bends, you're not going to see that coil through there. So there, now I can't see my coil. Keep wrapping. And I usually go over that a few times, just until it looks okay, right? Just like anything, when you're first starting out, it's a little wonky, but once you get going, so easy. So you always want your yarn on the top. We're gonna coil this around like this because we're wrapping it. If you're doing it left-handed, you'll go the other way. What you'll want to do is go down through the center, which mine's real tight because I didn't want a hole there. You'll go down through the center, pull it out, making sure you're keeping it round or coiled around. My hair is shed everywhere. Coiled around. Then you're going to want to come back up right behind your stitch. So we can see this right here. I hope you can see that. Was your last wrap before you went down through the middle. So you want to go ahead and pull that taut, and that's your first stitch. So then you continue doing it. You wrap it away from you 3 times, keeping it taut. Go down through the center. Like I said, it's always a little wonky when you get started. And you go right back up behind the last thread that you wrapped. Now you can see when I started wrapping it, remember I just held that yarn, I laid it on the cord. This is the end of it. So as far as your ends go on this, they're always wrapped up in the basket. So there's no like weaving in of the ends or anything like that. So then especially once your bottom starts getting bigger, I hold the basket after, those first couple wonky stitches in my left hand. So I'm going back down through the middle. Pull it taut, but keep it flat. And then go back up behind that stitch you just made. I'll do a few more here so you can see. Quick example, you can see my coil, or excuse me, my core through here. I needed to get those closer together, but that's going to be hidden on your next round. So I'm not too worried about it. Now, this coil is going to be fat because these guys are on here. You just cut those off. If you want a more staggered, you can cut 1 off and then 2 off and then 3 off, or you can cut all 3 off. It's personal choice. It's whatever you want to do. I don't really care. Here again, it's the art of it. I'm not looking for uniform. This really is the difference probably between people who match up the stripes on their socks when they're knitting versus people who don't. I don't. Go back down through the middle. And back up behind where you just went. And you just continue that all the way around. Once you start wrapping around, you're going to be going in the middle until probably about here. Then you'll start working on this outside coil all the way around. So that's how you start it. I hope you could see all of that. If you have any questions about anything I talk about, let me know. And what I'll do is I can go ahead and make a reel on Instagram and show you anything that I need to go over again or go over because I forgot to mention it. Okay. Next, I thought that I'd just do a few coils on an already established basket. I have stuff all over it from this fiber or fabric shedding. When you cut your yarn, you want it long enough so that you don't have to change your yarn umpteen times, but you don't want it so long that the excess is cumbersome. So it's a little bit like cross-stitching or embroidery, something like that. So this one, I have already started going up the sides. Now, your baskets can be any shape. This one, I'm going straight up, whereas this one, I went sort of at an angle. I think this one I'm going to go at an angle as well and make it more of a bowl than a basket. When you're transitioning from going flat to going up, all you do is manipulate your stitches. That is how tight you make your stitches on a wrap. So I'm going to wrap it 3 times. And if I wanted it to start going out, I would pull it out like that and on every stitch. But if I want it straight, I'm going to keep it straight. Same with going in. I mean, these don't even have to be bowls. These could be, well, bowls or baskets. They could be vases. So if I wanted it to go in, I'd just start holding it there on all of my stitches, and that's where it will want to stay. But I want this one to keep going up. So I'm just going to work a few stitches here so that you can see as we go along. On my 3rd wrap, I give it a little tug. You don't have to, like I said, eagle claw it, but you do want it to be taut enough that the basket isn't wobbly. I mean, they have play in them anyway, but you want it to stand up nice for you. Now, the reason, coming back to this guy, the reason that we wrap the yarn 3 times is because if you go more than that, this happens. See, this whole row, I didn't work a stitch every 3rd wrap. I don't even know how many stitches that is. And this is what happened. Now, you can use that as a design element. That's cool. Like, I don't mind this one. I think, you know, like I said, she's ratchet and I love her. But I want you to be mindful of it, sort of like spinning. It's okay if you're doing it on purpose, but we want to teach you the correct or right way to do it first, and then you can add in these sort of techniques. Next, I'm going to show you how you change your yarn or plastic. Like, I'm using the plastic as a core on this one. You can also cut these in strips and use the plastic in place of the yarn. You could do a whole plastic, because plastic bags are free, right? If you don't have any of these materials, everyone has a million of these grocery sacks, I feel like, under their sink or whatever. All you'd need is a tapestry needle and some scissors to cut this into yarn. So anybody can make a basket. The other thing I was going to show you, I'll show you on this basket as well. I make a pull ball so that I don't have this happening, which it does happen and you have to roll it back up. But if you are making a large basket and you don't have it on something like this or in something like this, I make a little pull ball. And how you do that is you hold the basket down here and you wrap this around your fingers a couple times in a figure 8. And then you pull it off and you just wrap it, kind of like you're winding yarn. This is for people who don't know how to make a pull ball. Most knitters do. And then you just have a little ball hanging out here, and you can just pull it out when you need more. Now, what do I do with my tapestry needle? Okay. So I have some scrap fabric. This is scrap fabric. You'll notice this is my hinterland, and this is my metamorphic dress, just some linen scrap I had left over. Ideally, these would be longer because I am changing them out quite often, but this is going to be a very little bowl, and it was just purely for this demonstration, so I'm okay with it. Actually, now since I'm looking at this, I think I can get another one out of that. So let's just try her. When I get down to that short, I don't even hold the tapestry needle. I just hold the fabric. So wrap it 3 times. Give it a little tug. And you're going to want to go into the coil below and then up behind the stitch you just made. Okay, so then when you get so short, you just wrap that guy right into it with the next one. So you go ahead and you grab your fabric, put it on your needle, and then just lay this right on top of there. Hold it taut so that it doesn't slip out, and just start wrapping. Make sure that your core isn't poking through anywhere. It's not. Now this one, I am trying to go out at a bowl angle. So I go into the stitch below, see where all these guys are, or excuse me, the coil below, and up through the one I just made. Wrap 3 times. Down and back up. Now, these guys right here, you can leave those there if you wish. As you're pulling, as you're wrapping and pulling, this is going to turn. So these are going to migrate around. And I will tell you that once they get underneath here, it's sort of a pain to catch them as you're like wrapping up around. This is just a tip. You can do it if you want. Some people you might want to leave those out. Maybe that's your design element. Actually, that's kind of cool now that I'm thinking about it. So you could use that as a design element and leave those hanging out. I actually really like that. I'm not going to do it with this basket, but that's a cool technique. If you keep wrapping them, they're going to migrate down below, and then sometimes they're hard to catch. So you're welcome to just snip those off. The only thing you want to make sure is that they're good and anchored before you snip them. See, I didn't get very many passes out of that one. But I have some more here to cut. And I only have this much jute. So this is going to be a little bowl, probably like this. Maybe not even that big. I don't know. But I'm going to use these guys. Now, you can use fabric for the bottoms. I just used the yarn for the bottom just because. It's totally up to you. Sky's the limit. Like I said, I cannot wait to see what you guys come up with. Now, I don't have a basket to show you how to end, but I'm going to walk you through it. So say you wanted to end this right here. Say you just wanted this to be, I don't know, let's say it's a coaster. What you'd do is you'd cut it off wherever you want it to end. And in this case, I would unply this and maybe cut 2 of those plies out. And then maybe go down to 1 ply. Here's an example of how I ended this basket right here. This was an unfinished basket that I had forever and ever. I wasn't even trying to play. Like, I did not care what it looked like. I just wanted it finished. So this could be a lot nicer looking. See how there's that jog there? For all you perfectionists, and if I cared, and if I would have taken more time, I would have personally, because I've looked at this, I would have personally continued to here. See this white spot right there? How it kind of dips down here. How it kind of dips down right there. I could have brought that around and hid that ending a little better. Here is a great example of a bad ending, or I like this one, but you know what I mean. If you were trying to get it even, Instead of me ending this right here, I would have come over here and ended it. So what you do, let me see if I can give you a better example here. So say this wasn't ended and I kept going and this was straight across. I would probably right here or so start cutting those plies out. And then once you get here, you start wrapping around the bottom coil. You do the same stitch, just instead of going to the one below, you can, there's a better picture. So I made my last stitch here, and then I started going into the bottom row. Whereas if I would have done it over here, that hump would have been hidden better. But here again, this was just I was just messing around. I mean, it looks like I was trying to get rid of yarn scraps. This is so old, I couldn't even tell you. I don't remember making it. So it's a great example of how wonky they can look. And then I have other examples, not here with me, where they're nice and uniform looking, if you're going for that perfection kind of look. One more design feature that I want to talk about is like holes and handles. Some people will make little baskets with handles and then they'll put like a plant in it and that's super cute or anything really. But if you want to make a handle, you wrap this much like we did when you first started. And there again, you want to keep it nice and tight. I'm not going to do this, but I want you guys to see how it's done. Nice and tight. Make sure that your coil isn't showing through. And then get it as long as you want your handle to be. You probably see where I'm going with this here. So then you just pop it up and make your stitch right there. And there's your handle. You could also maybe not make it as big. Maybe we unwind these and maybe you just want a little hole. Maybe you do these every so often and then on the next row you stagger them. So there's all sorts of different things you guys can do with it. Play around. I hope that I've discussed everything. I think that I have. Like I said, if I've forgotten something, please let me know. You can also mix your cores. So you might have a big fat core on the bottom and then start with something thinner up top. You could use the same size core and just change your yarn. You could go from holding 1 yarn to 2 yarns to 3 yarns, which that's what I did here. That's also what I did in that basket that I made in high school. So there's all sorts of things that you can do with this. I'm really excited to see what y'all come up with. Now, I am going to work on my basket for a little bit, this guy. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to read you a few things that I found on the history of coil baskets. Thank you guys so much again for digging all of this stuff that I talk about, and have a great day. Hey guys, real quick, just wanted to let you know how much fun I've been having learning the things on basket making and the history of it. I did want to mention, just for some of you OGs, I don't know if you remember, way back on my 1,000 subscriber giveaway, I had people share family heirlooms with me, and one of those was submitted by my friend Jolene, and it was a basket that her husband Tony's great-great-grandma made, and she was Pomo Indian. The Pomo Indian tribe was very well known for their basket making skills, and I wondered if they did coiling, so I did research that a little bit, and they do. They did 3 main techniques: plaiting, coiling, and twining. And I'm showing you a picture of Tony's grandma's basket on the screen right now. It looks like coiling to me, but I'm not positive, and I just wanted to share that. So while I was researching the history of coil baskets, I stumbled upon a website called Folkways Craft Kits. And I read their About Me section to find out what it was about. Her name is Jennifer. She has an academic career in cultural anthropology. And after she had her daughter, she said that she had this vision of making craft kits that had an emphasis on cultural origins of the craft, which I thought was so cool. And she does journal entries. They also sell craft kits and they have some tutorials. Well, she has a tutorial as well as a kit on coil basket making. So I will have that linked below, as well as giving her full credit for the journal entry that I am about to read to you, because I am going to read it word for word from her journal entry. I hope she's okay with that. I probably should have asked first. I'm not, and please go show her some love. She seems like a super cool person, and I'm going to read you the last paragraph in her About Me section because I don't want to mess it up, and I think it's so cool. It just kind of shows you why I think she's cool. It says, "It's also very important to me that while learning about other cultures, there is an opportunity to give back. This process of learning and making is an exchange. In this spirit of exchange, Folkway Craft Kits partners with Nest, a nonprofit organization that advocates for the global handworker economy, the well-being of women artisans, and the preservation of cultural traditions around the world. Each month, we choose to donate a percentage of our sales to Nest's programming. Your craft kit purchases directly supports Indigenous artisans around the world." So this is also why I don't think that she is going to have a problem with me reading her journal entry to you. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. She called this "The Deep Roots of Basketry," and she wrote this on June 25th, 2020. Traditional examples of basketry can be found in nearly every place in the world that has been inhabited by humans. Basketry, a form of weaving, has been used to make sandals, mats, huts, fishnets, fences for animals, beehives, hats, filters for beer or wine, you know we like that here, strainers, rafts, and all forms of storage containers by folks all around the world. Some of the most ancient evidence of basketry can be found in dry cave sites in the now western United States. The arid environmental conditions have allowed for the preservation of materials that would have long degraded in a wetter place. Coiled and twined basketry have been discovered in sites that are approximately 11,000 years old. Additionally, pottery shards with the impression of basketry pressed onto the surface dating back to at least 8,000 years old have been found in caves in present-day Kenya and Eastern Africa. This ancient craft tradition carries a social, spiritual, and utilitarian function that continues to be important today. Coiled basketry was made by enslaved Africans and African Americans in North America. Often known as sweetgrass baskets, coiled baskets were made from natural materials available in the region from North Carolina to Florida and used by enslaved workers for agricultural and household purposes. The Gullah Geechee people, who are descendants of West Africans who were brought to North America as slaves, have continued this unique craft tradition. One common form are the wide winnowing baskets, or fanners. These are used to separate rice grains from husks. Grains are tossed in the air or poured from one basket to another while the wind blows away the chaff. These baskets look similar to coiled baskets made in such West African countries as Senegal and Angola, which are also used to process grains and cover food. Ancient and modern basketry have been made from a variety of materials and techniques. Indigenous people of North America have and continue to use willow, sweetgrass, and pine needles to produce coiled baskets. Navajo coiled baskets are known to be so tightly woven that they can be used as water jugs. The symbols and colors on Navajo basketry are also noteworthy in that they convey cultural meaning and spiritual significance. The coiled Navajo ceremonial basket, also called the Navajo wedding basket, is an example of the spiritual significance of basketry. The design of the basket is viewed as a map that charts the course of one's life. At the center of the coil is a spot called the Sipapu, where the Dene or Navajo people emerged from the previous world into this one through a reed. Light-colored inner coils represent birth. As the coils spiral outward, there are black motifs that represent life's struggles. Coils made with red fibers symbolize marriage, the mixing of blood to create a family. Coiling out from there are more dark motifs interspread with light colors that represent increasing wisdom and enlightenment as we grow older. The outer rim of the coiled basket is light colored, which represents the return to the spirit world. Other interpretations of the basket's symbology suggest that all of the light colors represent dawn, all of the red stands for the sun's rays, and all of the black symbolize clouds. A particular feature of the design includes a light line that runs from the center of the basket to the outer rim, representing a constant pathway to the light that is present throughout our lives. When the basket is used during ceremonies, this line always points east, the place of the rising sun. Some weavers believe that a pathway must always be included in their designs because it encourages a flow of creativity. All over the world, Indigenous groups have produced baskets for utilitarian, decorative, and spiritual purposes using a wide variety of innovative materials and techniques. Mastery over this craft has the potential to raise one's social status, especially for many women artisans throughout Africa, such as the Tonga artisans of Zambia, who use ritual while actually weaving the basket into being. Learning and making this craft holds the potential for connecting us to our ancient human roots, using our hands, hearts, and minds, making a woven vessel become a container for our creative curiosity. And then she goes on to say, learn more about making your own coiled basketry here. I will link this journal entry as well as her main site and her about us section so that you can see all of those and find them easily. I just want to give a big thank you to Jennifer at folkways.com for writing such a cool journal entry. I love learning about where our crafts come from, and so does she, so we are very like-minded. I hope you guys had fun learning how to make a coil basket. Seriously, please, please, please hashtag me. I cannot wait to see what you come up with. Until the next time, until the next craft, until the next podcast, if you haven't and you like what you saw, please like, thumbs up, subscribe, all that happy horse shit. And until we meet again, later.